All right, we're back on the Nissan. I'm trying to get this thing figured out. Update on the cylinder head, not available. Nobody in the country has one. I found a few on eBay for almost double the price of what you could find them for at AutoZone and O'Reilly's and other parts distributors. Not going to pay nearly $600-700 for a reman cylinder head. So, come along. I'll show you what I did and what we're doing to get this cylinder head back together. All right. So as you know, if you've been following along with this series, it was cylinder number 3. The forward intake valve had an issue. That's not it. Where's the old? Not sure exactly where I laid. There it is. The old valve. Last time we showed you what had happened. It completely wore the outer edge of the valve off, gone, and the valve was sunk into the head, which allowed it to drive up closer, destroy the rocker arm, yada yada yada. So bought some more valves, bought new rocker arm. Once we got it apart and found all this damage, I had entertained the idea of buying a reman head, and as you just heard me say, they're not available unless you want to pay about double. So what did we do? All right, I carried this to a local machine shop, went in and talked to the cylinder head guy, and he asked me, was it just this one? And I said yes. They said, go lay it over there on the bench and we'll take a look at it. So what he did was he looked at the seat and he thought that it was probably salvageable. So he took a grinding rock, put the what do you call it, the guide down in there, installed the grinding rock, and re-angled and re-ground the valve seat. In his opinion, he didn't feel like that the valve seat was too far recessed in the head to be serviceable. He took the valve, put it on his valve grinding machine, lightly refaced the valve, came back over, put some lapping compound and put it down in there and began lapping on the valve. He couldn't get it with a hand lapping to seat in. But what he told me was he felt like that if I came home and I kept lapping on it, that eventually that it should lap into the valve and the seat should lap together and be fine. So I came in, used my drill motor method on some more grinding compound, and spent probably 10 or 15 minutes working this valve and grinding it. And it actually has a good sound now when you snap it to the seat. And I can no longer see daylight around it. So we've got, of course, all the other valves that need to be lapped and reseated to the head and the seats. In the meantime, we've got a bunch of other stuff that we can do on the truck, and I'm fixing to show you that, and we're going to get into that real quick. All right, what I was talking about with all the other stuff that we could do and need to go on and do while it's all accessible, while the intake manifold's not here, while the exhaust manifold's off, everything is pretty well wide open. I purchased another starter for it. I've got stuff to change the oil. It's right here in the open. I actually went and bought another alternator. You've got these hoses, which are, well, not impossible to get to, but dang close to impossible to get to. So anyway, we're going to get to work with doing all that. Also, we've got a water pump. We can go ahead and get all that installed. We've got to get the head surface cleaned up. So we got quite a bit of work ahead of us. Let me get started. Alright, well, that time lapse you just watched, the starter, alternator, oil change, and I went ahead and did a fuel filter on there, and with all that stuff off the truck, the way it is, the head off, intake and exhaust, all that stuff's wide open. I think it may have taken me a total of about 30 minutes to get all that done. Of course, my son dropped by, we stopped, talked for a few minutes. That always takes up a little bit of your time. Anyway, it's time to move on to grinding the rest of, and not grinding, relapping the rest of these valves. This one, I would say I actually had to grind because it just wasn't fitting the other day. But anyway, we need to get back on to lapping the valves. So let me get it set up. We're going to get after it. All right, I want to cover this real quick. If you're reusing the valves in your head, take a piece of cardboard, lay it out, mark the front of your engine to the rear, mark each cylinder hole. That way you know where they go back. If you're replacing all the valves and all the seats and all that stuff, all that really doesn't matter. But if you're trying to just relap the valves to put them back to service, it's a good idea to mark them and put them back in the same hole they came out of. I'm going to show you this real quick on this first one. I know I've covered this before, but if this is your first time coming by the channel and you've never heard it talked about or seen it done before, we'll cover it real quick. It's the same for all the valves. Take your valve, take your lapping compound, and you want to put just a dab on the face of the valve where it seals and seats in the head. Okay, and keep it off the stem. You don't want to get any on the stem because we're not grinding the valve stem area. We want to do the seat and the valve face only. So get it slid up in there. Some people say put a little drop of oil on there. If you want to do that, that's fine. I've usually don't find that it's necessary. I've not had any issues not oiling it, but if you feel more comfortable putting a little oil on that, on the valve guide for the stem, go for it. It certainly won't hurt anything. So anyway, I chuck the valve onto the valve stem head by hand and just gently pull it. Fairly slow speed. Pull the compound off the seat. And then you want to inspect your valve. Make sure that you have a nice concentric line all the way around. And I do on the seat as well as the valve. I'm going to have to do something to this valve seat. Excuse me. I'm going to have to do something to this valve guide. Need to see if it needs clean because it's got kind of a tight spot in it. May just need to be clean. You heard it squeaking. So anyway, now I gotta only do that, I don't know, 3, 6, and 12 more times. Alright, well, that's pretty much got all the valves lapped in. I'll have to go over and put all the valve springs and shims and all that stuff back in, and I'll have to do a liquid test to make sure that none of them leak. But as long as none of them leak, I won't have to continue to grind anymore. I've got the seats cleaned up, the valve face is cleaned up nice, so they should seal perfectly fine. Of course, I've got to do a little more cleanup on this head. It's grimy from 160,000 miles, or how many miles on this truck, I don't even remember anymore. But got to do that, get it cleaned up, and got got still yet a ways to go on this project, but I think it's actually coming my direction. Appreciate you coming by Real World Garage today. Hope you picked something up, learned something. This process of grinding and lapping valves is kind of universal to most all piston engines. So you can take the same process, apply it to Chevrolet, apply it to Ford, apply it to Toyota, all pretty much the same. So we've got to get some more work done. And while we're doing that and shooting some more videos for you, why don't you go out and watch another one coming on the screen right now.